what you're looking for.
Your specially grilled newspaper spiced with lifestyle, sport, entertainment, politics, business, and international news. The Voice is available every Friday. Subscribe now. The Voice. Let's find out!
Dumelang Botswana Kolapeng. Welcome to the Voice of the People with Chief and Fangs. I am your host, Khosi, aka Chief, and I'm with my good colleague here, Mr. Fangs. And this is the show called The Voice of the People, where we break down everyday issues that are taking place on the streets with your everyday people in a way that Fangs and I know best. So today we're talking about something that is very interesting. Even this past week, actually, we saw this issue come up. We're talking about adultery, infidelity, kuchita, what is the relationship being? So today we're here to talk about whether or not we should criminalize or add jail time. Relationship they go out of the marriage, should one of them face jail time? As usual in this debate, there's a side that's for it and there's a side that's against it. So I am going to be on the side of those who believe that we should not face jail time, Mr. Fangs.
Okay.
Because, I'll explain my reasons. But, how about you break it down? Tell us maybe why you think that this has gotten so bad that people should go to jail just hella for cheating.
Yeah. Nagana wena rato go tsa di position tse di thata hela Chief. I thought that this was a very straightforward issue. Hohana remo, we are in a pandemic, and it's a hajaja se ke buang ka sone gompieno. Ga se sa COVID-19, ke bua sa divorce. It's gotten to a point where most marriages end in divorce. Most marriages end in divorce. I think it's over 50% of marriages nowadays that end in divorce. In developed countries, it even gets to about 70% done, which is a serious problem because it leads to matatabo, destitute women and children, spreading of diseases, and just generally the social so. Now I believe that people, yes, that adultery should be criminalized. What I mean by that is, up till now, it seems like the law has been looking at things how to balolwapa, then you are the one at fault. I get it. Yeah, no,
we just explain that.
Hey, if you step in, if you're the one, and then my wife steps out of the marriage with you. Right now, the law recognizes where now you are at fault. And now if I want to hold my wife accountable, I have to sue her for divorce. That's not enough. We need to criminalize this matter. We need to take it from being a civil issue, a civil problem, and the state needs to step in. The same way that the state stepped in Hakinyala, they need to step in and say, no, you have committed a crime not just against Fangzi, but you have also committed a crime against the government of Botswana. And therefore, we will hold you accountable the same way we do when you steal from Tum, or when you commit any other crime against Tum. Why is that? Well, number one, I say because adultery is a violation against the state. It's not just against me. The victim is me and the victim is the state as well. Why? Because the state enforces marriage. Number one, ke contract kana homo nchivana and contract yo hawe sign you don't even, most of us don't even know. I haven't drafted it out, the terms of the marriage. No. It's already done there. All we do is we go sign, we go there with your best friend who's your witness, and then it's done. The government deals with the details of your marriage contract. The government enforces your marriage contract and it gives you benefits because you're married, and there are corresponding costs as well. So the benefit, for example, inheritance. How and your spouse passes away, you are the primary beneficiary of their estate. On house anyala, even if you've been with that person for 30 years, the government will not enforce your rights over that person the same way. So already, this is a contract that involves 3 parties, not 2. It's the government, it's me, and it's my wife. So even, and already we recognize it, because how about that divorce? You don't just go to Kohamakat Strata, you go to the High Court, right? Because it is a very serious matter. The government recognizes that the state is the custodian of your marriage. And we have to look at it in terms of protection of rights, because the state always protects people's rights. And I think that there's a real need to protect the cheated party here, because and then for for a lot of the time, what you're going to find is there's no protected sex between married partners. Nobody's using a condom with their wife, right? What that means then is it doesn't just have to be AIDS. It could be any other sorts of diseases that you pick up and you bring back to your wife, right? And then now you are compromising her health, right? So that is another crime. And you are directly infringing upon that person's rights. So I think looking at it on those 2 levels, one, from the beginning, it was between 3 people. You chose to sign this contract and say, I'll be faithful to this person. And because you're putting their health at risk. Therefore, that should carry criminal liability.
Wow. It's a very interesting angle that you've taken, friends. That there's actually 3 parties molenyalo, because now all along and that's pretty much where I'm going to premise my opposition to what you're saying, right? Because even though you say the state, all of these things, right? The most important factor out, consent out. You're talking about 2 consenting adults. They knew the repercussions of what they were doing. They knew exactly all of the things, like all of the people who could be potentially hurt by this, but they went into it. So for you to go, it's almost like you're abdicating that responsibility. We tola responsibility or no state there must step in. So that's why I have the first problem with that, right? But fundamentally, here's the issue, because I think I understand where you're coming from. For whatever reason. Right? So it's an interesting proposal, or maybe then cheating is one of the reasons, right? But then we have to look at a deeper reason. Why did that person step out in the first place? And will this actually reconcile those 2 parties? Because I think that's what the most important thing is, right? Because when what you're looking at is the consequences or the action, you're not looking at the cause of the action. The reason why this is important is because it's going to show you that even if you want to send these people to jail, it's not going to result in marriages being stronger. So if, for example, I don't love my wife, and then cheater, this thing just because if anything, I'll be even more careful, because the consequences are, what's at stake is even worse. You get what I mean? So I think that's what fundamentally we need to look at. How do we deal with the problem, the real problem, which is the breakdown of marriages in modern society, which is like a fundamental problem. And I agree with that. That's something that we need to deal with. But I don't think that this will address that, right? Another thing that you need to look at, that you mentioned, that's very interesting, about how that person now deals with the third parties, things into the household and stuff like that. That is very true, right? But again, this is possibly grounds for an individual, now they must hold that other individual to account, right? Because they've put their life at danger. Or now directly so all the recourse, the legal power to to be able to prosecute. I know how similar in your government the thing in Namatata. But even more important, you know the reason why jail time, you can't introduce jail time when it comes to something like this is because it sends a very strong message. Ghana, who are the types of people that we send to jail, right? These are like the worst offenders, no society. But right? But now, if you are sending someone to jail just for doing something, because let's just be honest, when this adultery happens, so now if you're going to send someone to jail for something like that, what kind of a precedence are you setting? You know, because now we've lowered the bar of things to jail for. It's very easy now to start throwing in all sorts of other frivolous grievances for people to say, you know, this person needs to be held to jail. Already did a lady issue the GBV, right? Yeah, no. Imagine now you are confusing that issue with this type of issue where you want to send married people to jail. Basically, I understand where you're coming from, right? Look, I would propose maybe the marriage contract, like you say, they need to be revised after, say, every 5 years. That's something that we need to do to deal with the current problem we have. Because you're right, it is a pandemic. Like, the divorce rate is so high, right? But now you need to ask yourself, what are we trying to solve? Are we trying to solve people getting divorced? Or are we trying to solve the decay in people's marriages? Because I definitely think you can punish people, for going out, but then are you going to force people to love their spouses if they really don't?
Okay. You know, Kahutla chief or what? And how I go on. Maybe the suggestion I got radical, you know what? Another way I see it is there needs to be a way. Number one, divorce kana tata etla bakeng la hono go cheat. That's the primary reason why people get divorced usually.
Well,
right?
Yeah,
but it's the main reason, right? Usually. And then secondly, you have to think there's a serious violation of trust that happens here. That's my thing. Because we are making plans to live the rest of our lives together, you know? And now I'm going to make changes in my life based on the fact that and my wife is going to make changes in her life based on the fact that and then now you know, it hardly seems fair because now her life plans entirely have changed. Everything that she thought she could rely on has changed, you know? And it's not enough to just say, like, she's gonna get the house. You know, there's a lot of emotional baggage that goes with that, a lot of trauma as well.
Let me ask you a question then. So, I'm not saying that cheating is right or anything, right? And where you're coming from by talking about all of the repercussions, it's about the person feeling justice or whatever, right? But will there truly be any justice from having your heart broken, even if you send the other person to jail?
I mean, I think just the recognition, what they did was so severe that it's considered a crime. You know what I mean? It's that bad. The government thinks that it's serious. You know what I mean? Because right now it just seems like it's like almost like my girlfriend in high school cheated on me. You know, she made out with another guy. So what, right? But this is like a whole family and entire families. It's my parents, my uncles, my siblings that are involved in this union. And now for this and this reason I think I'm interested in someone else, or I can have my cake and eat it too while I'm still pretending to honor.
from people earlier.
We
You know,
had.
because we always appreciate when people engage with these type of issues. So what are some of the comments that people are talking about?
Well, we had a comment from Kushata, Alex Stephen, and they said that my position is and will always be that the marriage wrecker is the married party. Ga gona motho yo thubelwang le lwapa ke motho yo sa mo nyalang. O thubelwa lwapa ke spouse sa gago. Society and the law for many centuries has always diverted attention to the wrong party, i.e. punishing the wrong party. To me, punishing adulterers will be a sign that we are now getting back to our senses as a society. We are getting the right person to account for his or her action in marriage, i.e. cheating in marriage. Ultimately wrecking the marriage. The scapegoating days must end. That's fair enough.
Look, that's an interesting thing about generally who do we hold accountable in these situations? We always hold the person also on but now ask yourself, who's actually more in the wrong? The person who's in the union or the person who's coming from outside? So maybe I agree with you to a certain extent there.
In some way, because when a guy is the limit is 75,000 or 75,000 plus. So how much I can chief 75,000 to go in. But now, is it fair to you, Yakobu? When I get a lot of how I sign a contract, you weren't party. For all you know, that lady didn't even tell you that that you're married, that she's married. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's check out another comment from Oratile Ru Palanta. Are two souls so mature entering an agreement triggered by their circumstances. Now, how do you interfere as a government? Some banyetswe by tekisa. We are committing adultery. Okay, I get the gist of where this is going, and it's about consent, right? That when two people get into an agreement, where does the government get in? But like you said, there is some case for the government to be involved because
from the beginning
they're the ones who enter you into that contract. But then again, Fangs, are they necessarily involved? Are they just drafters of the union?
A lot of the time, I don't know about you, but a lot of the time when you're thinking about marriage, you're thinking about it for practical reasons as well, Chief. Right? So you're thinking about Johana renta matwale baby, right? Renta matwale baby, we're paying for medical aid, we're doing this and that. So it actually becomes cheaper for us if we're living together, my wife and I, or my girlfriend and I, if we're married. So there are clear benefits that we are getting from the state, right, in order to be married. So right from the beginning, part of the reason why we did it was because we know the state will enforce certain rights for us and medical aid will be cheaper and my taxes will be a little bit cheaper. And now, no, the state can't be involved. The state was involved from the beginning. If you don't want the state to be involved, don't get married.
I thought people got married because they loved each other, Fangs. But apparently it's because it's cheaper. So, that's a good thing. Maybe just read out one more comment there.
One more comment. Yeah. All right, let's see. Tabiso Mutsaseli Are Bitronko di Katlala. Then it becomes cost for government to take care of those people. No. Law cannot always control human behavior. Fair enough.
Yeah, and that brings an end to our discussion for today. As always, we are interested to hear from you, the people, and interested to hear what discussions you would like to bring to the table. This particular discussion was brought to us by one of our viewers, so we appreciate the heads up or the insight onto this motion. Yeah,
we want your suggestions.
So we would love more suggestions because, again, the aim of this show is to just break down issues on the street from the everyday person, and we talk about them here in the studio, myself, Mr. Chief and Fangs. So from us and our good friends at The Voice, we would like to say goodbye and stay tuned for next week for The Voice of the People with Chief and Fangs.
Only
one newspaper captures the human side of Botswana.
We present business concepts in a way that is understandable for people.
We show you what's hot and what's not. We are the best-selling newspaper with the best online presence. The Voice speaks for itself.
Oh yeah.